Leadership is part of human nature. However, for some mysterious reason, we have learned to believe that leadership is only for a privileged few. When we think about leadership, most people will think about Winston Churchill, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi. The same thing happens with creativity. People say, I'm not creative. I can never be like Pablo Picasso or the Beatles or Frida Kahlo. But what if you at the back were able to develop a set of leadership capabilities that would allow you to become the best version of yourself? Wouldn't that be cool? What if you were able to surprise all of us tomorrow or in 6 months' time, in 2 years, with a new set of abilities and behaviors and habits that can help you achieve whatever you want to achieve or to live a more fulfilled life? What if I told you that you don't have to be like Nelson Mandela? You don't have to be like Picasso. You have to be yourself. But most importantly, an aware self. I came to Australia when I was 29 years of age, and I had to lead a team of people. And because I sound like Gloria, and I do speak Spanglish, you may think that I'm like Gloria. But I'm not. I'm Silvia. I have lived half of my life in South America and almost the other half in Australia. And throughout this process, I did many things. I'm a scientist, I'm an educator, I'm a leadership author, and I'm a daughter, a mother. And in 2008, I suffered from intense depression, and I have overcome it. And you know what? It feels really cool to be me. Not because I have or possess anything in particular, but because throughout this process, I have learned to be myself, an aware self. And the work is not finished yet. Last year, I went to America to get my brain scanned, to understand what's inside my skull, and understand my behaviors and why I do the things I do. And this image is about my next challenge. Since January, I put myself on a 365-day challenge to look at what I do, my beliefs, analyze them, my thoughts, my emotions, to see what I can learn. And this is the basis of personal leadership, to understand our own brains and our behaviors, to reflect and notice what we think and how we respond to situations and to people, and to ask for feedback so we can compare the views we have of ourselves with the views of others. If we don't ask, how do we know? The world has changed. Behaviors and attitudes and the concept of leadership has also evolved. 100 years ago, it was the mark of a true leader to die with a sinking ship. This is no longer true. 100 years ago, mothers would say to their daughters, we are women, we don't have options. You have to get married, even if you're not in love. This has also changed. Lady Gaga has 41 Twitter followers. With that amount of followers, she could become the president of a country, perhaps my own country of origin. And that would be a great idea, by the way. This is Henry Ford. He was the highest paying employer 100 years ago. And he had inspectors going to the factory floors on a daily basis to check out what his workers were doing. In 2 years' time, 63 million people will be working remotely in America alone. This may not apply to all the countries around the world, but certainly we are experiencing a phenomenal change. And some of these changes can be demoralizing and daunting, particularly when we want to use the behaviors and the attitudes of the previous era of work. And Matt today mentioned the industrial age and information age, so I'm going to continue building on that. So we are, from my perspective, in what we call the imagination age. This term is not mine. It belongs to Dr. Rita Kim from NASA. And if you look at this comparison, We have gone through very task-focused, and I know everything, and there's no feedback, to the era of information, where information was the power, knowledge was the power, and it was about visionary leadership, and we all contribute together, and we look at the future. But today, in the imagination age, it's about creativity. It's about who knows what's going to happen next. It's about knowing our brain. It's about learning to be vulnerable. One of the biggest changes is the world is becoming a place for makers, not just takers. A maker is a creator, is someone who adds value to the economy with his or her thinking and with his or her ideas. This is where I-leadership, or personal leadership, as I call it, becomes relevant. Why? Because it takes courage and drive to create, to persuade, to influence, to move forward. It takes leadership, it takes awareness. We need leaders more than ever, says Gary Hamel, a management guru. In my opinion, we also need people who not only want to lead, but who also want to learn how to follow. Wouldn't workplaces be better if all of us could lead, but we could all follow? Okay? Things have changed. We can't use the traditional leadership models of the past, where command and control were prevailing, where we have hierarchical organizations, where the pace of work was much slower, and where there was no diversity. This is what I call leadership is upside down. And there are a few changes, which I will mention 4 of them, which will justify my statement of today. One of the big changes is that technology has created a divide, the digital and the non-digital. This is the first generation where children are teaching their parents how to use technology. If not, ask your 3-year-old to teach you how to use the iPad. And also, the younger employees can teach the experienced manager to learn new technology. But that requires an open mind, it requires listening, it requires empathy to see other people's perspectives. In the past decade, society has favored analytical over social thinking. This means that people in organizations are expected to achieve things without being connected, just looking at goals and KPIs and performance appraisals, and that doesn't make us feel good, and we become disconnected. Dr. Matthew Lieberman from the University of California has recently released a book called Social. He explains in that book that the part of the brain that is responsible for looking at numbers and goals and KPIs and deadlines is completely different to the part of the brain that we use when we want to empathize with others, when we want to understand the intentions, the emotions, the thinking of the other person. The more stressed we are, the less we use our social circuits. So leadership requires social skills. If they are not fostered, they are not developed. So, if you are an employer and you have some money in your training budget, use it. Because you cannot have a working force that knows what to do if they don't develop their leadership abilities. Number 3, in the next years, in the next couple of decades, there will be more women leaders in the workplace. And I don't know if you notice, but women communicate differently to men. We talk a lot. But we also like to lead in a different way. The last one, the future workforce will come from a global talent pool, and geography will no longer matter. We have a very young team of people, and we work across the globe. And that requires superb communication skills, a lot of listening, a lot of understanding. So there we go, no traditional leadership models. And what happened is, a couple of years ago, as I was traveling from Perth to Sydney, over the red center of Australia, I had this insight. And I thought, well, I teach leadership for many, many, many years. And we can't really use what we were using 3 decades ago. So I came up with a new leadership model. And this is my idea worth spreading. This is my I4 neuroleader model with the brain at the center, Why? Because we now know so much about the brain that we just can't leave that aside. We can understand how our brain functions and how it impacts on our behaviors. Then we have 4 competencies that I think we need to lead with these competencies if we are to survive the demands of the 21st century, both from a personal perspective and from an organizational perspective. We need performance, we need collaboration, we need innovation, and we need agility. Each of these competencies has 4 pillars. The main pillar for each competency starts with the letter I. That's the term I4. And these are integration, which underpins the competency of performance, and this refers to how synchronized the different systems inside your brain are working and how well you are incorporating the other body systems like the heart and the gut, not just the head brain. Inspiration, we talk a lot about inspiration, and I guess that you are here today because you want to leave the theater today being inspired. Inspiration is about managing your emotional energy from negative to positive, because at the end of the day, people want to go to work and feel inspired by their teammates, by their manager, by their organization. Command and control is obsolete, so we need to learn to awaken the inspiration within us. Then we have imagination, which is the precursor of creative thinking, and that leads to innovation. Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Anyone can access knowledge today. You go to Google, you have the knowledge. But it's about imagination. And the last one, which you girls will love it, intuition. Intuition as the precursor of agility. We can't wait to gather all the data, all the information, because things move really fast. And this is not a women thing. Men also have intuition. And this reminds me of Sebastian Thrun, the creator of the Google self-driving car. He had an intuition before there was any infrastructure, any data, any maps to create the self-driving car. We went around and asked people, a big survey we did, what they thought about these 4 inbuilt competencies. And particularly the intuition one was quite surprising. 88% of people said that they use intuition to make their daily decisions, and they think it's really basic to move fast and to be agile. But 76% of people said that intuition is treated with contempt in the workplace. Okay? And I think intuition will not be a taboo word anymore in the business place as the years go by. So what I just showed you, it's a map, a simple framework of the type of abilities that we all have in our bodies and brains, and we need to use them. And it's very cost effective because anyone can activate their imagination, their intuition, their inspiration. It doesn't require money. It's about educating ourselves in terms of using these competencies and understanding the brain as well. Perhaps you're sitting there a bit puzzled, a bit skeptical, a bit doubtful about how to do this. And my recommendation to you is look inside yourself. Take time to reflect. Take time to notice what you're doing on a daily basis. And if it's not working, change it. Because at the end of the day, the product that your company produces is not really your product. The product is the people that work with you. They need to be engaged when they come to work. And one of them is you. And that changes completely the way we operate when we work with people. I am not a poet, Matt, but I wrote a poem a couple of months ago, which I want to read to you now. And the reason why I want to close with a poem instead of facts and figures and case studies is because we need to do things differently moving into the next decades. So I hope you like it. And I'm not like Luke either, so I can't rap like him. So I'm going to read it. The poem is called I Dream of a Time. I dream of a time when people who have the power learn to show humility. When those who become obsessed with getting everything right come to understand that on occasion it is absolutely fine to get it wrong. I dream of a time when those who lack patience realize that their impatience makes others anxious, and when those who yell at others realize that intimidation is disengaging. I dream of a time when those who show indecision learn that they are creating doubt in their followers, and when those who resist change learn that they are missing out on the mystery of the unknown. I dream of a time when those who are financially successful learn that helping others is good for the soul, and when leaders realize that those who care are the better leaders. I dream of a time when people understand that developing our own leadership is essential for a better humanity. Thank you very much.